will be able to help you. I am going to kick it off now to Christine, who is my manager and currently the, I believe, acting, I forget the exact
associate director.
Yes, associate director.
Mhm.
And just want her to introduce herself. She has a lot of background on Southern Ave and is the project manager for portions of the Southern Ave projects that will be happening and will be implemented soon. So just want her to have a quick few minutes to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. So thanks for the intro, Syra. So Southern Avenue is part of our high injury network. We are working through, this is of course part of the Vision Zero initiative, working through the high injury network piece by piece, project by project, just like this, and trying to address the safety issues while introducing multimodal facilities and accomplish Move DC and others all at the same time. So we've had a number of in-person walks along this. We've seen it in the snow, we've seen it in the dark, we've seen it in the mornings, in the kind of midday period. So now's the opportunity for other members of interagency staff and the public to come in and tell us if they missed all of those walks, if they aren't able to enter their comments on our online map, to tell us what the safety issues are that they experience, because we get something from the data that we see from crash data, from traffic data, but it's really helpful to have the lived experience of the residents here and folks that are using and traveling on this street very often. So everything that we get from the road safety audit will feed into the recommendations for the project. And that'll be supported by other recommendations based on the safety, crash data, as well as traffic data. So with that, I'll throw it back to Syra. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you, Christine. I do see that we have a few members from, or at least Brandon from Brown from PG County, who has also joined some of our walks in person. Just want to shout them out because they are right across the street from us, or like they share Southern Ave with us, and they are a vital group for us to engage with and learn from them any concerns that they may know or have in regards to Southern Ave. So right now I'm just going to kick it off to Alec so that we can start the presentation for what is a road safety audit, and this is just a review in the portions that we'll be covering for Southern Ave.
All right. So I'm going to talk through what a road safety audit is, and then we will switch some screens here and then actually do the virtual road safety audit. So you see here that Southern Avenue has been split up into 3 segments, Eastern to Central, Central to Benning, and then Pennsylvania Avenue to Branch Road. Segment 1 and 2 are right next to each other, and then there's a gap until we get to Pennsylvania Avenue and Branch Avenue, and there was previous road safety audits done kind of in between there as well. So if we go to the next slide. Okay, so you can see the schedule here. In January, we walked through segment 1. It was a very cold evening that night. So that was January 23rd. On January 31st in the morning, we walked through segment 2. Both times we met beforehand and talked about the expectations of the road safety audit and then debriefed after those. And if you continue with the schedule, we also met February 20th. We did segment 2, plus we also extended it to Benning to Ridge. And that was a midday road safety audit, or kind of early afternoon, a little after lunchtime. And then on February 26th, we did a morning road safety audit on the southern segment there of segment 3. And then tonight, day 5, we're doing all of the segments, all those 3 segments virtually. And so this is the pre-audit meeting. It's the 6:30 to 7 piece. We'll do the virtual piece for about an hour from 7 to 8, and then do a debrief from 8 to 8:30. Although during the road safety audit itself will be kind of an open discussion as we virtually walk along the corridor. So to go to the next slide.
Sorry, I think it might be delayed.
Yeah, and I have two screens here and it's a little different timing.
Okay.
So we'll go through introductions. And I guess we've kind of introduced ourselves. Ira and Christine have introduced themselves. Also, I'm Alec Pachowski with Kittleson. We're the consultant on this. And you'll see here that the road safety audit is intended to be conducted by someone independent of the owner or the designer. So in this case, that's us with Kittleson. And I'm joined by Caitlin as well, who's helping control the slide deck here.
I just also want to point out that I did note that this recording is going to be recorded and therefore published, and it's going to be published on I believe Facebook, and also we do plan to add it to the project's website. And in addition, we're going to share this presentation to whomever joined today and with the ANC, as this is public information. So if you have any questions, concerns, or if it is delayed, know that you're going to get this slide as well at the end of the presentation.
And so here you can see all of the different segments of Southern Avenue that we have done. The previous segment, December 2022, was from Pennsylvania to Benning Road. So we've already done that previously, and so we're not skipping that. But again, tonight on the right side of your screen, and again, north is to the right in this, well, it's actually kind of angled. But segment 1 again will be from eastern to central, segment 2, central to Benning. Then we'll skip ahead to Pennsylvania Avenue and finish up with Pennsylvania to Branch Avenue. Wait for the slide.
I'm sorry. I need to do it ahead of time.
Anticipate. So
Yeah, it's up.
So in December 2022, just going over what we did cover there, it was 1.2 miles. We identified 54 safety issues, general concerns, failing to yield to people walking at the unsignalized crosswalks. We identified visibility of people walking, particularly crossing the street by both parked cars. The topography too, as kind of going up or down hills, it can be hard to see crosswalks up ahead. There's a lack of pedestrian scale lighting, and then skewed intersections. Southern Avenue's kind of on an angle compared to the rest of the street network grid next to it, which creates a lot of skewed intersections along the corridor. All right, and then as part of that 2022 road safety audit, we conducted the historical crash analysis, which really showed that the crashes primarily occurred during off-peak hours. And oftentimes you'll see that the crash rates correspond, or the number of crashes correspond to when traffic volumes are the highest. In this case, that was kind of the case, but really a lot more crashes proportionally occurred in off-peak hour when traffic volumes are lower, but when speeds are a lot higher in those off-peak hours, when there's not the congestion or the other cars there to slow down cars. We also saw a predominant of a lot of left turn and side swipe crashes, which really indicates either aggressive driving or speeding along the corridor. All right, so let's talk through eastern to central here. And you can see it's the very top portion of the corridor, kind of the corner with southern and eastern. And it starts, the area just north of 63rd Street is kind of that 2-lane, almost local residential road. And then near The 63rd Street intersection is a lot of roads coming together. It includes the East Capitol Street intersection as well, and then all the way down to Central Avenue. So there's the 3 signalized intersections along the corridor. It is a Tier 1 corridor on the district's high injury network, and it was also included in the district's 2015 high injury network. So this segment 1, which is about 0.65 miles, so a little over half a mile, had 330 crashes in the past 5 years, including 2 injury crashes, one of which was severe. And so this is clearly a high safety priority segment for the district. So the land use along the corridor in this segment is really low to moderate residential density, particularly that top corner there where it's Southern Avenue itself is almost a local road. And so typical cross sections between Maryland Park and the very top corner and East Capitol Street, it's again that kind of local road, 1 travel lane in each direction. Curb to curb width is about 52 feet. Between Maryland Park Drive and East Capitol Street, 2 travel lanes in each direction, so a 4-lane road. And again, the curb to curb width is about 52 feet. And then between East Capitol approaching Central Avenue, it's down to 1 travel lane in each direction, but it includes some additional shared parking and travel lane on both sides of the street. And the curb to curb width narrows there to about 42 feet. All right, so let's talk about segment 2, Central Avenue to Benning Road. So this one, it has I think the kind of biggest area, the most interesting part is the area there around Fitch, where it kind of cuts in around the cemetery and comes back to the general alignment. But again, this is from Central Avenue all the way down to Benning Road. So there's 2 signalized intersections on this stretch. This stretch is about 1 mile long, so about 1.65 miles total so far. This is also a Tier 1 corridor on the district's high injury network and was also included in the district's 2015 network. So there's about 464 total crashes over the past 5 years, including 3 fatal crashes and 2 injury crashes. So a few more total crashes, but a lot more severe crashes in this section. So also a high safety priority in the area. So from a land use perspective, again, it's really a mix to low to moderate residential density. And I think it's the area around the cemetery there where it cuts in and cuts across, changes it up a little bit, kind of the focus of the corridor. So between Benning and C Street, there's again 1 travel lane in each direction, which also includes kind of that rush hour shared parking travel lane on both sides of the street, with the curb to curb width about 42 feet. And then between C Street Southeast and Central Avenue, you have 1 travel lane in each direction. But in this case, it includes a striped parking lane on both sides of the street with the same curb to curb width of about 42 feet. And then the third segment, so we're jumping ahead to Pennsylvania Avenue here. So it's the section from Pennsylvania Avenue down to Branch Avenue, where Southern Avenue ends until it repicks up further south of here. So this section, again, it's about 0.85 miles. So the length is in between the last 2 segments that we've seen. 3 signalized intersections. Similarly, also a Tier 1 corridor on the district's high injury network, and also identified in the district's 2015 high injury network. So about 418 total crashes, which is in between the crash numbers of the past 2. So you can see the length kind of corresponds to the number of total crashes in this case, but no fatal or severe crashes in this area. And again, also a high safety priority for the district. And I should note for the severe crashes that part of what we've seen in the high injury network is that the type of road, just because one area doesn't have as many severe crashes, we know that the design of the road, and again, these are all, the design is very similar, can relate to kind of safety issues in other areas as well. So it's indicative of that. So again, some of the other areas, low density residential, with this kind of a small pocket of moderate residential density there, in kind of the northeastern portion of the corridor. And again, one travel lane in each direction. So you see that the roadway curb to curb width for all of this continues to be about 42 feet. Between Pennsylvania and Suitland, it's one travel lane in each direction with, again, striped parking lanes. You do have bus stops on both sides of the road in this direction, in this location. Further south, between Suitland and Erie, one travel lane in each direction, a striped parking lane on the northwest side of the street, while parking is legal on the southeast side of the street, but isn't striped. You do have bus stops on both sides. It's the same curb to curb width. And then between Erie and Branch continues with one travel lane in each direction, legal parking on both sides, and again, bus stops on both sides of the street. All right, so let's talk through the road safety audit itself. Typically, this would be done in the field. In this case, is virtual, so we'll adapt it a little bit here. But going through some field review responsibilities. So an aspect of the road safety audit is that it's really evaluating the roadway and roadside features, and really anything that has to do with the road itself, that would relate to it being a potential safety issue or something that could increase the likelihood and or severity of a crash. And so within a road safety audit, everything from a small maintenance effort, so a brick is sticking up somewhere, to a large systemic issue like drivers are going too fast on this road, is fair game and open for observation and something that we want to note during our road safety audit. And we'll talk through a lot of what we've seen in the field related to those kind of smaller, easier to fix items to the larger systemic issues. But it all relates to how the road users interact with each other and with the road facility itself. And then you can see there that there's a lot of elements that you can look through, and it's really a proactive identification of safety issues. So going through the road safety audit itself, I'm going to talk through what a road safety audit is. We'll talk through some of the crashes. We've kind of done that already. And we'll talk through the prompts or things to look through. And those last two sections will be pretty quick here, so we can get into the virtual road safety audit itself. All right, so in the next few slides, we'll begin answering these questions. What is a road safety audit? Why do we need it? And then what are the steps of a road safety audit? So it is a formal safety performance, and it's really a formal way of documenting things that DDOT has been doing for a long time. So the safety walks that we've done in the field, it's really just a formal mechanism for doing that, for doing those safety walks and then documenting it, and then having a place to put this into other projects and for DDOT to respond to it. A key element is that it's an independent team. And again, I mentioned that's us as the consultants being independent from DDOT, from the owner of this. Again, it's formal, it's focused on safety performance, independent, and it's intentionally multidisciplinary. So it's not just people involved in transportation planning and engineering. It also includes people who live on the corridor, the daily users of the facility, the people who know the road very well, because you're out there every single day in many different forms, whether you're walking or driving or delivering or accessing transit or whatever other type of use you can have of the roadway itself. And it considers the safety of all users in all the different modes, the interactions of users between each other and the roadway element, identify safety issues, and it's intended to be both it reacts to the crash data we've seen, but also proactive in identifying things that are safety issues, even if they haven't led to crashes yet that we know of. And so why do we need this? When you look at crash reports, which I guess we do quite a bit, you will see that often human factors, so things like speeding or not paying attention to the road, is listed as a factor in about 93% of all crashes. But we also know that the roadway environment and the vehicle factors account for 34% and 13% respectively of crashes. But there's also overlaps. About 27% of all crashes are both human factors and road environment. Vehicle factors are 27% of the human factors and vehicle factors. So there's overlap in what causes crashes. It's not just design. It's not just the human factors, and it's not just the vehicle. So all of these things combine to create crashes. So why do we need it? A lot of we've just mentioned, a lot of the safety issues are identified in collision reports. The road design should anticipate and accommodate a variety of users. It's easier to design and build safer roads than modify behavior. And you'll see here, there's a lot of competing interests, but safety is an explicit consideration that should not be falling through the cracks. And should be first and foremost. And road safety audits really put that safety at the top of the priorities in terms of roadway designs. So the steps, we are currently, this is step 3, conducting the startup meeting. We've identified the project, we have the RSA team. The field review is what we're going to get into here in a moment. After this review, we're going to take this information and we'll combine this with all of the other information that we've collected previously and prepare a report. So conduct analysis, prepare a report. We'll present that report to DDOT, who then is tasked with preparing a formal response. And then DDOT will incorporate those findings into future efforts on the corridor. So there's a prompt list here. And then Caitlin, you can go ahead and just skip through kind of these. Well, here's a summary, awesome, of the prompt list. So we can identify issues at specific locations. So along the corridor, along the street, mid-block, intersection, shared use paths, anywhere you might see a thing you want to talk about. And look at things like traffic control devices. So that includes signals, signs, pavement markings, things that tell a user of the road how they're supposed to behave on the road. The physical environment, so whether it's topography or hills or infrastructure too. And then what's included in that physical environment infrastructure are the presence and placement of different things. So the distances between crosswalks. Sometimes you'll see people crossing the street just because a crosswalk is just too far away, or it's more convenient, comfortable to cross in a certain location. The quality, so the quality of the sidewalk, the quality of the pavement, the quality of pavement markings. Is the design consistent? Is there consistent connectivity along the corridor? Is it visible? Are there obstructions? Is the lighting adequate? And one thing is we've done some of these site visits in the evening or early morning, but some of the midday site visits we're not able to see that lighting. And then are there crossings near transit stops? Some traffic control devices, again, sign, pavement marking, signals. And then do people, whether it's the drivers, people walking, biking, follow these traffic laws? And then operations, interactions. So what are the vehicle speeds? What are the traffic volumes? And I see in the chat that we just answered the ADT there too. Thank you, Syra. What are the modes? Are drivers yielding? What are the modes and the behavior of the modes? Are drivers yielding to people crossing the street at crosswalks? And what are the interactions? Are there conflicts between people walking, biking, riding transit, or driving? And we do have an interactive map. So we've collected some comments on this interactive map. And if you have, obviously we'll collect comments over the next hour as we go through this. And we'll be trying to enter these as we go. But anything you don't say tonight, you are free to enter, and we encourage you to enter on this interactive map. It's actually really easy for us to take the data from this interactive map because we know the location and it's very specific to that location. We will also take your comments and feedback directly, whether it's in the chat or verbally here. All right, so that's it from the presentation itself. So I'm going to share my screen and begin the virtual section.
Thank you, Alec. While you do that, I do want to shout out Commissioner Martin is here. Thank you for joining. We look forward to getting your comments or feedback. I do see that you put a question on the chat, which is how long would the interactive map be available for inputs? Alec, would you mind providing that information?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be available until we turn it off, which frankly, I think we forget to turn this off quite a bit of time. So I guess it's the date that we turn in the report should be that. Yeah.
Yep, I can take that. So this is the last step in the RSA process. We need to get this report together so we can start looking at all the comments and developing concepts and safety treatments for each of the different intersections and areas along this so that we can finish the project in a timely manner. So we can leave it open for 2 more weeks to be able to send out to folks, to the constituents that could make it. And we'll update and post this on our website along with this recording. So that's available as well.
Yeah, and I have already sent it to all the ANC commissioners, but if you don't have it, I'll be happy to forward again, or again, we'll be sharing this presentation at the end. So look forward to me sending this information to you again.
All right, so you can see here we are, if we zoom way out on the corridor, at the very top of the corridor, looking kind of southwest, we'll call it south along the corridor, in that section of road between Eastern and kind of 65th Street, 63rd Street intersection down there. And I'm going to keep kind of just jumping ahead along the corridor. Please share your thoughts. I guess you can ask to be unmuted or put yourself in the chat and we can read those comments out loud. And I've also have Caitlin here who can see some of the comments that we have already. And we also have been out in the field quite a bit, so we've seen quite a bit of information. And I think I'll start here, that this intersection I think is fairly confusing with a lot of different approaches and things happening at this intersection. And of course, when I look left here, this is the Prince George's County side. And then south is Southern Avenue. And then we're looking kind of along 65th Street and Banks over here.
Yeah, so I think while we were out here during the walkthrough in the evening, I think it was like after the snow, we noticed there's like a lot of movement through this intersection, a lot of confusion as well. Very it's a long path for pedestrians to cross, needing some definitely signage improvements, and just overall safety improvements. Also, we had questions about the empty lots. It looks like it's going to be redeveloped. It is on the Prince George County side, so I'm working with them to have an understanding of what's coming. And that's what I can remember from the top of my head, but please feel free to jump in, anyone with any new comments that you're seeing or summaries for this intersection.
Yeah. I'm seeing intersection geometry is confusing and emphasizing there's a lot of missing kind of crosswalks here, or just desire lines you can see where people do and are interested in walking.
Yeah, Christine is pointing out that there's a lot of speeding related to crashes. Oh, no, that was just answering Brandon's question. Sky was noting that we've noted down the permissive left turn at this intersection. Brandon, you can definitely unmute. You can raise your hand and then we'll unmute you. Just as a refresher, again, raise your hand. It is on, it's an icon on the bottom in the middle. And then we can go ahead and unmute you. If you're on the phone, dial *3.
Great. No, I just wanted to have a little bit more control, excuse me, over, like, I'm happy to mute myself. You know, I can do that voluntarily. But, geez, there was one element of this conversation that was of particular interest. Oh no, what time were the severe crashes? I'm like, I've been typing all day. So
Yep, I put that in there. So it's one of them was the two fatalities.
Yes.
Yes, the two fatalities. One of them was at 11 a.m. midday.
Okay.
And then the other one was at 3:30 a.m.
So we've had predominantly like property damage only. Forgive me. I'm just trying to gather some insight on this corridor. The property damage only numbers exceed injury substantially, I'd imagine, in addition to fatality. Correct?
They do, and that's pretty common. I will say that the number of fatalities on this corridor is pretty
Low.
striking. It's pretty high compared to much of the rest of the district, or frankly, the DC area.
Well, for an AADT of 13K, that is high. I agree.
Yeah.
Because hello, 0, right? That's what we're talking about here.
Right.
That's what we're working for. And proportionally speaking, I totally respect that. So looking at the Cabco scale, just trying to put it into context, I think that was something I wanted to just introduce into the conversation and acknowledging that that level of service there's a disproportionate number here, evidently. Obviously, that's why we're all here tonight, right? So supportive of that. And just an additional note to let y'all carry forward is, something to consider on the qualitative side as y'all are sharing this with folks is, the user group, whether it be, and maybe this is superficial and not relevant, but whether it's, the license plate says Maryland or DC, right? Because there's local communities on both sides of the district line here. Obviously, this line demonstrates that. And so in terms of like potential, like the education element along with the 3 E's, etc., I'm happy to bridge the gap between communicating any future efforts in respect to implementation of countermeasures within this corridor that may take into consideration the distinction in terms of kind of the two worlds that live on both sides of this road. And I apologize for the interruption. I don't want to distract the conversation. This sociocultural, okay, is relevant. And when you talk, I'm not trying to get too granular on that level, but from a very, very basic level, people who live in the District of Columbia identify with that statehood, 51, right, as it ought to be, as do others in Maryland. And there's different driving culture given the distinctions in the land use and the network features on both sides. So that's something I'd encourage looking into when we're talking about on the county side. Happy to bring folks to the table about the campaign, and you guys know the Vision Zero folks. So I think we can really make a really positive impact when we're talking about the education element of the 3 E's, if you will. So on that, I will be quiet. I apologize. Thank you.
No, that's great. We love to have Prince George's here, and thank you and Samarita from the Vision Zero office for being here tonight. It's great to have this partnership, and that's something we hear from the community as well. How are we reaching out to and including Prince George's County, especially because Southern Avenue is our border street, even though we own till back of sidewalk and a couple more feet. Maryland, DC, all users can use the street and need to be safe. And we're both Vision Zero communities, so we're aligned our goals here.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So we'll continue along here, and I'm going to kind of jump ahead to different intersections just when things change a little bit. Obviously, if I jump ahead too far, feel free to stop me and I can go back. I think when we're out here, I remember walking in the snow along the fence over here. I think we even noted that there's some nice kind of almost trails in this park here without fence breaks until the very end over here. I will note that this imagery that you're seeing is from November 2023, so it might be a little out of date than what is out there today.
Yeah, I think one of the observations for this block also is just it's such a long block. If you zoom out, yeah, exactly. And there are, I think there's like one side street that hits a couple of houses, and they are on the Prince George County side. However, because we're neighbors, just you know, there is a park across the street. Not sure if families live there, but accessing the facilities, if it's like a public park, or just what are the habits of just residents, because it's such a long stretch, like they don't have any crossing path, and so are they then just you know, crossing midway. So we had a lot of those observations and questions in regards to just the operation of this long block.
Noted the kind of high-speed slip lane ramp over here. And then the break and the kind of fence barrier here with the little ridge along the sidewalk. And then we had a lot to say about this intersection here, just with the very, very long crossings, the skew, the right turn, and then particularly buses coming in and out of the metro station here. Kind of the buses going through this right turn slip lane and cutting across, and then people wanting to walk into this metro station here as well. And then we'll talk about this crosswalk up here in a second.
And then the other side, we saw people going through it. I mean, I think Commissioner Martin was there, making wild movements from these side streets, U-turning through this, that cut in the median there. So that just introduces a lot of the crash conditions that we do see.
Yeah, and you'll see here, people, we saw, I mean, a lot of people, it's a metro station. There's a strong desire to get to the metro station. And it's also pretty indicative when you see things like broken curb here, that something's going on, and this is probably buses or other vehicles hitting this curb over and over and over again. So you kind of get clues from the roadway itself there. And then this crosswalk up here, I think we saw was fairly scary. Get up there. It's pretty hard to see with, especially we were there in the evening, and it was December, so it was nighttime. So yeah, we almost saw someone get hit there trying to cross the street. And of course you have to cross the street here because the sidewalk ends. So.
Oh, good news on this location here. We just finished installing the rapid flashing beacon here. So if people press the button, you get the flashing beacon. Now that's not a long-term fix. We intend to replace that through this project with more safety treatments, and then eventually with the WMATA redevelopment even more. But okay, some car stop. Okay, that's some progress. We want to see more People stop for sure.
More than we're stopping. So, yeah, actually, you're right here on the crosswalk itself. The ending sidewalk. I'll keep jumping ahead. So we had some driveways along the corridor. We did note some of these driveways, the lips weren't kind of level, and some maintenance issues with some of the driveways as well. Some more driveways. And again, you can kind of see the sidewalk broken up here between the two different driveways. In this location. So then approaching 58th Street. So the angle, again, you can see that the angle, and this is predominant on the entire corridor, ends up creating a longer crosswalk just because of the geometry there. And then here you can see the cross section, so no sidewalk on this side of the street. You can see parking on both sides of the street, one lane in each direction.
Yeah, and in relations to the parking, we also noticed that it wasn't heavily used, or at least it wasn't regulated as well. So just maybe possible ways of like reusing that in the future, right? Just to make sure that it does control it, because it goes from East Capitol, it's 2 lane, and then it drops to 1 lane, but then cars try to pass, and so just controlling a little bit of that area. And then Commissioner Martin said for, I think it was for 58, difficulty for cars to turn left onto Southern Ave, just for visibility.
Yeah, and you can actually see that right here where this car is. A car trying to turn left, you're looking for a gap, and then kind of the topography of the road and the fence can make it hard. And frankly, the parked cars, you can kind of see the parked cars blocking your view of the cars right there. So, and actually I think these cars are parked, so they are not moving. So there is a gap, but actually it looks like there's not a gap because of where the cars are parked there.
Looks like Commissioner Martin has her hand up.
Yes.
To add that piece, I mean, once he goes down a little further, you'll be on 57th Place. That's my street, which is next to 58th. And we have the same issues turning left. I usually don't even go that way just because cars speed over the hill. You can't see them coming until they right up on you. I know I've seen crashes on 58th Street, debris and everything afterwards. I know Lady Miss Brown, who lives on Southern Avenue, her car has been hit a number of times right there. So it's difficult where the people try to turn left, where the cars are parked either too close and you can't see, or the cars can't see you. I mean, it's just a mess.
Yeah, I like these views so you can validate what you're saying directly, and you can see here how difficult it is, exactly what you're saying, with parked cars there in the hill to turn left.
I'll just add too that we have received comments in the map of that same issue. So yeah, we've heard that and definitely want to address that.
We also talked about this crosswalk right here. Where the crosswalk is, you have a lot of cars coming over the hill and don't realize there's a crosswalk here. And then even cars coming up here where there's an opportunity to maybe extend this median through here or relocate the crosswalk somewhere else. But yeah, we heard a lot of comments about this crosswalk as well. Getting down here, close to Central, again, the angled street creates a little bit of a skew in this location. And so now with Central, we're officially entering segment 2. but we'll keep going. We'll kind of jump to the intersections. So B Street, similar, angled street coming in creates that long crossing. And again, no crosswalks across Southern Avenue in this location. The sidewalk has picked up though. So we do have a sidewalk again on both sides of the street over here. But that'll change. So at Bass, again, similarly, and it is good to note, you see people walking on this corridor. Even when we were there, it was very cold. There are people walking on the corridor. So it's not just us who are out there. And again, parking, and this is pretty indicative that, again, parking is allowed here, but it's not used regularly. And down to C, this is a one-way street coming out. So in November, there's no crosswalk over here. Then jumping ahead, similarly angled street. So it really widens up with how it looks and feels in this area as we move kind of southwest along the corridor. And then approaching D Street, so we're going up a hill in this location. So, and the angled crosswalk.
This was another very speedy area. We saw and experienced a lot of drivers speeding in this area.
And you can see why that's the case. We don't know what time of day this image was, but you can see, again, pretty wide, empty road, which contributes to higher speeds. All right, approaching E Street. And then here we have the cemetery pickup on the other side. And we did note when we were out there, the sidewalks over here, there were sidewalks, but they were covered with either a lot of leaves and other kind of debris and other elements. So.
Yeah, and with that, I also want to note that we do partner with our sister agencies, and we invite them to these walks. So DPW did join a couple of walks. We also invited WMATA. We also invited MPD. MPD is actually on this call today. We do appreciate Commander Hickman's time and commitment to the ward and our partnership. And we also invited DPW parking team, among others within DDOT and others outside agencies as well, such as PG County. Because we do understand that it's almost like raising a kid, right? Like it takes a village to get our infrastructure to be a part for our residents. And so it's not it's a partnership between a lot of entities to make sure that the sidewalks are cleared and that it's properly cleaned and maintained, and there's proper safety improvements for pedestrians as well. So just want to note that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And another sister agency that we've been talking to is the State Historic Preservation Office, because the cemetery is historic. And then, of course, this is Southern Avenue, we've got the boundary stones. And so they've been involved in reviewing the project, and we'll keep them engaged.
And here you can see kind of further along this is where Southern Avenue bends in, becomes Fitch for a little bit and repicks up. And then we approach the intersection here, which there's a new traffic signal here that's been installed since January. We saw it just about ready to open up when we were out there in late January. And you can see it in November under construction as well.
I believe that's been activated now, right, Commissioner Martin? Have you seen it active?
Yes, it is. Sorry, I didn't know how to unmute.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep. So, jump ahead. So now it gets into the curve here. In the Prince George's side, Prince George's County side, you have the guardrail on the other side of the crosswalk. And then it curves past the recreation center. And we talked a lot about, we have a bike share station here and a recreation center and a very long distance between crosswalk over the ridge or any other crosswalk way down here. So it can be quite a distance between where people aren't able to cross the road to get to the recreation center or the bikes. Along here, again, we have the park on one side and then kind of wooded area across the street.
And with the rec center in the fence, I think it was a different commissioner out that day, but we saw a lot of desire for people to get into the rec center and cross through or go and utilize the fields. So definitely going to engage with DPR on ways to improve that access.
Yeah, I think they did their own kind of door through the gate.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, something was like down here was picked up or something. But yeah, I mean, you can see the kind of the trail through here as well to get. When we were back, we saw some cars that look, especially in this section, like they were parked on the street for more than a day or two. I guess this imagery caught that as well. A lot more leaves on the tree in November than I remember seeing in January out there, but it gets a little busier, or the perception is it feels a little busier down in this section, probably because of the parked cars and the single lane there. But again, the parked cars, they left quite a few gaps in between.
Mm-hmm. And there were a couple abandoned vehicles here. We put in a 311 for it, and I believe a few have been towed away, but if there are more, we'll have to resubmit for DPW.
I think the benefit of doing multiple walks is you could see the same vehicles. And now we're approaching Benning Road, where this segment ends. Then we're at Benning, and then Benning Road is included in the December 2022 road safety audit and effort. So I'm going to jump ahead. We've seen the cars, or the comments about the cars as well. And yeah, we did see the comments I'm seeing here about the dumping along Southern Avenue. And I'm going to jump ahead to Pennsylvania Avenue. So this imagery is from December 2023, so not about a month later than the November imagery that we saw a moment ago. So you can see some pretty fresh, well, it looks like, well, now we're in October 2023. So you can see, well, now we're in October again. Well, let's jump over here. December, you see some pretty fresh striping in the area. along there. And if you can look back, I guess for December again. So we might jump a little bit with the dates of the imagery. So now 1 lane in each direction. And again, we have a parked or a striped parking lane in this section. And I do remember seeing a boundary stone. We saw a lot of boundary stones, but there's one along this apartment complex over here.
Yeah, it's a little further up past that crosswalk.
Yeah. Maybe further up.
I do want to note while you're finding that, remember there was a resident that reached out when we were announcing this project to ANC 7B, which is the start over here, I believe. And they're requesting that we turn Suitland Terrace, it is the name of this kind of ring road, into a one-way. So we'll be investigating that as part of this project to help safer for residents back there as well.
Yeah, I believe Commissioner, his name is slipping my mind, but he's, I think, the chair of the transportation.
Brown, right?
Yeah.
Calvin Brown. Mm-hmm.
No, of the transportation.
Swanson.
Yes.
Mr. Swanson.
Commissioner Swanson was at the walk, and he also expressed that there were a few residents that were interested in that would be a benefit for this section as well, to reduce not only for the residents, but to reduce any conflicts between pedestrians trying to cross and cars trying to get into that road, and just reduce any conflict and improve the area.
You can see how Suitland makes a loop back there. Well,
and we were out here while it was raining, and we all know that there are bad drivers when it rains. So as Christine had noted earlier, we really did get to see Southern Ave and different views and weather inclements. So we do feel like we got to experience all of Southern Ave and what it has to offer.
this section also felt a little hillier than other sections. And this is Suitland Road itself down here.
Yeah, we noticed that I think there's a left turn pocket. Yeah, that was being used as a through movement, or it was a little bit confusing also because there was no proper signage. And then there's also a bus stop, which I think the bus stop is like that lane is supposed to be used as a through movement. So definitely making improvements to that. It's in the other end, you were correct.
Yeah, and I just jumped ahead from the last image I was showing is 2022, as Sky pointed out. So we've now jumped back to October 2023 here, and you can see. Yeah.
Also, I believe if you zoom into the bus stop, I think the bus stop even has a wrong name. I can't really see it from here.
This one looks right.
Okay,
It may have been, yeah. When we were out there, I think there was some debris from this bus stop around. This bus stop had been hit, or it had a real-time arrival screen that looked like it had been removed. There's, I have to check. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have a picture of it. So I will double check as well and send it.
And then here, I remember specifically there was some confusion about specifically the number of travel lanes on this side of the road. you can see that the road clearly narrows to one lane, but we have some cars driving as though this was 2 lanes and some driving as though it was 1 lane on this side of the road. And then again, pretty long distances between crosswalks where it's all the way back here and then all the way down here.
And the other thing of note, there's really no signalized intersection between Suitland Road and Branch Ave. So that leads to a lot of speeding conditions. And we saw a recent camera that was installed in this area to help curb the speeding. And that was near the other fatality location that we had in the recent 5 years. So I think there's much more for us to do on the speeding front, help slow people down as they're coming through. But I'd like to know from any of the residents or even the commander over here if there are locations that we should look into for new signals or investigate those. Of course, they have to meet warrants and pass the test for those. But I'm just curious if you all have experience or recommendations for us to look at.
I think we have a hand raised too.
Yep, Ms. Carter, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I live on Southern Avenue, but there's an alley in the rear where there are townhouses in the rear of 58, where the ambulance have to go through the alley in order to get the residents. There's a bunch of senior citizens in the rear of where the alley is, and the paramedics are having a hard time getting to the resident. So East Capitol, there is a driveway, but it's cut off on East Capitol to the back of 58th. So we walked that way before, but nothing has been done at this time. '58th and Southern was right there with a senior citizen building at 5902 East Capitol. If you come up 58 from East Capitol, there is an alley on your left.
I think I see what she's talking about.
Is it that one? Is it that one? This one right here.
It's right after you pass the Hacienda and you come up, because 58th is one way. So you would pass the last group of houses, then you would come to the townhouses. Coming up 58 from the one-way street.
North the Capitol or is it 58?
East Capitol and make a right on 58th.
Yep. Miss Sally?
No, we're not there yet. Okay, there's an alley to your left. Get my glass. Left turn. And there's an alley that goes down, and there are houses in the back. And this is where they dump these abandoned cars in the rear on the left of that wall. It's a retainer wall on the left. And this is where they're supposed to build the driveway to lead to East Capitol, but they never did it. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so fire department's having trouble getting back here.
Yes, they are having a hard time, and we asked several times about it, but nothing has been done at this point.
Okay, is it because of the abandoned vehicles?
No, when no DDOT was here, we did a walkthrough a couple years ago as relates to this area. Also with the abandoned vehicles, they have picked up several vehicles, but it always seems to be a dumping place because no one visits that area. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We have cameras out here. We have cameras, and we report the incident, and we're not getting any assistance.
Okay. We will look into that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, jumping back down to Southern Avenue here, south of Pennsylvania. We're down by Forest Lane. I think here we did specifically note the sidewalk ends on the Maryland side. And it'd be nice to have a way to at least cross the street or continue the sidewalk over here. I think it was the next street. Yeah, it's here. Sorry, the next road where that happens. So at Wood Bark, where the sidewalk ends.
I'm gonna call on Brandon here from PG County. Is that a private community? Or would you all have any public right of way over there? Guessing with the fence, probably not.
We'll let Brandon answer if he's able to. So if we can continue, still no sidewalk. On that side, we continue. And again, the kind of 2-lane, 1-lane road on the other side continues here. Where we saw some cars treating it as though it was 2 lanes, and some as 1 lane. And Brandon's saying he can't unmute.
Okay, try now.
Oh, it's Brandon's computer. Okay, we'll keep going and we can follow up. Sixth, and then we have some hills here. You can see a speed feedback sign on this location. And then here on Erie, we paused for a little bit. It looks like there was, at one point, this was a two-way road where you could turn right from Southern Avenue, and it has been converted into a one-way road. I think we also talked about this would be a really nice, at least bicycle cut through to avoid having to go all the way down the hill and then back up again, and use the extra pavement there created from that. It's quite a way down the hill and back up again. Brandon, do you want to try again?
Okay, you should be unmuted, Brandon.
Okay, we can keep trying, Brandon.
Sorry about that.
And then down here at Faith Hills, kind of the bottom of the hill. So coming down, I think here we saw a couple cars going very, very fast down this hill, approaching over up here. We also saw, this is over here, cars coming up there, and then we go back up the hill. Again, where Southern kind of ends for a little bit into this apartment complex here. And we saw quite a few, and I remember seeing actually some very large vehicles here on Branch going across the intersection. And we're back in 2023.
Yep, thanks, Guy. We saw the bus stop near the church with no crosswalks to it. Yeah, right where you see those kind of concrete pads.
Yep.
In the middle of the street.
Yeah.
So we are going to be engaging with our bus team on this to see if the bus stops make sense and if people are using them and if there's a better placement for them if they are used. So we'll engage with them and WMATA as well on this.
And then with this, that concludes our 3 segments.
And I just want to point out here at Branch, we've got some short-term safety treatments as well going for. So we have a intersection safety improvement program that's part of our federal funding. And that's where we fund short-term safety treatments with signals or signs or different crossing treatments to make improvements for everybody using the street. So this is one of the locations, as well as it was noted a couple others along the corridor. But obviously we need to do bigger works. That's why we're here. And thanks, Brandon. Yeah, we'll email you and Samarita we'll send you the RSA that'll have all the comments in it compiled.
Yeah, at this point, it's formally the wrap up discussion period, which we kind of have been doing. But yeah, we're happy to take any other comments. And of course, if you have any other comments or you wish you had said something or have a question, the interactive map would be great. You can also contact Christine or Syra and provide comments that way as well.
Yeah, Brandon says, can we revisit the dumping issue? Yeah, I think we'll have to to look at that with DPW from our side, and then whoever on the Prince George's side as well, because there's definitely cleanup to be done on both ends. Like I said, DDOT owns until about a couple feet behind the sidewalk, generally. But after that, it becomes Maryland property or Prince George's County property. So from there, I think we can just talk to our own agencies and come up with a plan for that. I know there's signs. We saw signs across the corridor about illegal dumping, and clearly still a problem.
Yeah, I also noticed that this last stretch didn't have as much dumping as the first two segments. And maybe it's because I'm not too sure what the culture may be or what changes, or is it less pedestrian, or not too sure, or people maintaining the area that's improving it in regards to dumping. But I think this process will also allow us to identify those specific areas that encounter that. And that's the other reason why we invited DPW to the walk. And they did say that they often go out to that area and clean it up and gather the dumpings. And even if it's in the Maryland side, they will do their due diligence and try to clean it up, because they see a lot of requests from residents complaining in regards to the dumping. So happy to connect the the PG County with our DPW department to get that conversation started, and maybe flagging the specific areas that need that assistance.
And so it looks like, we will keep the interactive map active for the next 2 weeks. We'll take any comments then, and then we will wrap up the report to give it to DDOT. I think Christine, Syra, do you want to talk about next steps?
Sure, I can do that. So next steps for the RSA is to wrap up the comment period, get all those comments together into a report, and then that will feed into the concept development for the project that we're looking to do. So we've done the project, and it's in design right now for the segment between Pennsylvania Avenue and Benning Road. But we're looking at the safety treatments for the rest of the Ward 7 southern segment, connecting all of those pieces together and trying to improve safety along the entirety of it. We'll have to build it in pieces just due to budget constraints. So we'll have to kind of plan that out. But I think generally we can build about a mile or so per year. So like I said, next time you hear from us, we'll be coming to the ANCs hopefully in May, talking to you all about what the project process is going to be like, and then progressing with the project from there. Any questions from anyone on either the RSA or the project? Yes, Commissioner Martin, we'll send you the notes where we located the dumping issues as well. If you have any others, though, Commissioner Martin, please let us know, or you or any other commissioners on the ANC.
Yeah, I think just Commissioner Martin and any community members on this call or who later watch this, if you guys can help us spread the word in regards to the interactive map being open for the next 2 weeks. We are trying to get all comments because we want to have a full understanding of Southern Ave. We have been out there several times, but your eyes and your ears help us understand the road and how to come up with something that addresses your concerns. So if you could just, I re-added the link on the chat, and I will send it again to the ANC commissioners via email. And if you could just share that link, that would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so we can probably wrap up. It's 30 minutes earlier, so I'm sure you can either go have dinner or enjoy your evening. I'm gonna probably stay and linger just in case others pop up and just answer any questions, concerns, but feel free to log off at this time and go enjoy your dinner or your family.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.